Pistol Fed. Wise Green, do you have a YouTube channel for your past lectures? Absolutely. Look directly below the stream on Twitch. I have just clicked the YouTube picture. It has every single thing that I've ever streamed. Everything has been updated. I upload it immediately after I finish. We get that stuff done quick. Listen, I just gotta soak up the viewers, guys. I'm soaking up all the viewers. Get in here. Tell your friends. Everybody get in here. Everybody, get Alberto FCB in here right now. I need him in this stream immediately. Get him in here. Listen, if you see someone that's not in the stream right now, you get them in there. They have to be in here right now. What? Extension manager? No, get away. Yeah, that's right, Hoppenar. I am calling him to action. This is directly related to you, Alberto. Don't make me find out where you live. I'll find you. I'm going to find every single person in chat. Force them to watch the stream. We found a cool paper today, guys. We found a real cool paper. Oh, let me hide all the things that would dox me. Oh, it's probably a good idea, right? Hiding the things that would dox you? Probably. What an interesting name for a paper. Alright, let's change the screens. Yup. Let's open up this. Let's open up a paper. We're going to go over a paper. Because we're not going to do the actual teaching for another 2.5 hours. We're still doing normal. We're still doing normal streaming times. This is a bonus. We got bonus streams right now. That's what we have. Where's the annotate button? Annotate PDF. This one. iGPUs. Mafraxis. This is absolutely just for you. Yeah, Naharian, this is the bonus streams, bonus memes. And that's what we're all about here. That's what we're all about. Why aren't I running Windows 10? Because I like myself. I'm happy with myself. I don't want to be unhappy with myself. So I don't run Windows. Aw, shucks. Yeah, listen, we opened that immediately. I linked the paper in chat. You should type anywhere. You can type anywhere you want. Oh, it's Mafaraxis. Mafaraxis? Mafaraxis? Mafaraxis. Nice. Listen, we got some cool stuff today. We got some real cool stuff today. iGPU, a micro 2012 paper. Yeah, last one, Mafaraxis. Is that a reference to something? I don't know if that's a reference to something or not. Should I know it? Oh wait, I lied. Listen, guys, this is going to be a test. This is going to be a test of the ASMR teaching stream. Okay? No, it's not Mafaraxis. It's Mufaraxis? Mufaraxis? Isn't this an older issue? Yeah, it's from 2012, but the thing is, not a lot of stuff has been published on sequential or about um, precise exceptions. I was told, yeah, you're being called out. Listen, this is live from the lab. This is live
from the electrical and computer engineering.
Okay. Spectre. Yeah, kind of. Except this would make Spectre possible on GPUs. Isn't that spooky? Here's a question, Acute Berry. With unified virtual memory and prefetching pages on GPUs and things like AMD APUs and even on NVIDIA cards, could you have a Spectre attack on a GPU? NVIDIA says no.
I think they're lying.
Let's see. I should turn my mic up? Okay, let's turn the mic up. Let's turn the mic up.
Then let's get up close and personal for the first ASMR teaching stream on Twitch.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Welcome to the stream. Today we're going to be going over a paper from Micro 2012. That's like 100% a lie. Almost certainly on older GPUs. Acute Berry. That doesn't make sense. What do you mean? Are you saying that Spectre on GPUs and GPUs being immune is a lie? Acute Berry, GPUs don't have speculative execution, so how would you do Spectre on a GPU? That's my question. Some swag. Listen, you just gotta make me laugh and then maybe we'll have it. I don't know how to do an ASMR version of that. I can do a non-ASMR version. I don't know how to do an ASMR one. Just do it. No thanks. We're gonna get into the teaching now. Are you guys ready? Listen, you guys gotta tell me if you're ready. If we're not ready, we're not gonna start yet. But if you're ready, we'll go ahead and begin. So this is from the 39th International Symposium on Computer Architecture, otherwise known as ISCA, 2012. Listen, guys, this is going to be... Why am I whispering? Listen, this is the first ASMR teaching stream. We're going after the ASMR teaching stream, the ASMR audience now. We gotta boost up those viewers. Some swag, that is impressive. I'm impressed. Okay. Let's begin. Let's get out our highlighter tool and let's get into the abstract. Since the introduction of fully programmable vertex shader software, GPU computing has made tremendous advances. They said that they made an entire sentence that just says, GPUs have gotten better over time. How interesting. Exception support and speculative execution are the next steps to expand the scope and improve the usability of GPUs. However, traditional mechanisms to support exceptions and speculative execution are highly intrusive to GPU hardware design, otherwise saying, not a great way. Not a great way to design a GPU, at least under the current methodology. Listen, guys, welcome to the stream. If you like the content, give me a follow. We're going to be doing a lot of great stuff on this stream. Don't worry. After I get affiliate, we're not going to run ads during streams. This time is for you guys. You guys are all I care about. All we're going to be doing on the stream is learning together. And if you guys have questions, please just interrupt me. We're in this together. First, we observe that GPU programs can be broken into code regions that contain little or no live register state at their entry point. So let's go ahead and highlight that. Little or no live register state. So this just means that so when we're considering a live register state, that means registers that are being used or registers that will be reused in the future, or values in registers that will be reused in the future. Okay. We then recognize that it is simple to generate these regions in such a way that they are idempotent, allowing their entry points to function as program recovery points. So we're making checkpoints. A lot of times this is called checkpointing. Very interesting. I wonder why this hasn't been picked up by more people. Maybe it has. Maybe I just don't know anything about this area. We call the architecture of GPUs executing these idempotent regions iGPU architecture. The hardware extensions required are minimal, and the construction of idempotent code regions are fully transparent under what the typical dynamic compilation framework of GPUs. We demonstrate, okay, so then they just get into results. Very low overhead, 1 to 4%, and they can get reduced energy by 1/4. That's pretty good. Is this channel's name pronounced Anger Today? No, it's actually Engineering Today. ENGR is just a common shortening of engineering, but the name engineering was taken. So I did the largest and one of the most common abbreviations. I wish I could have gotten Engineering Today. Perhaps I'll get it in the future. Listen, this is the NPR teaching stream. You're listening to All Things Considered. I've got it. Guys, I have the perfect way to boost the viewership of the stream. We just copy everything that NPR does. So, instead of All Things Considered, we have a research series called All Architectures Considered. And then I make a soundboard of all of the little intro music that NPR plays and the exit music for when they go off air or when they're changing programs. That's the dream. I just realized it. And then I need to get the $3,000 mic from that NPR uses. They all use the same mic. Can we get a Robert Siegel to do a voiceover? Absolutely. That and what's her name? Renee Montagne? Okay. Let's move forward. So like we've said in other papers, the introduction is oftentimes the most boring and pointless part of the paper. So here in the introduction, they say, GPUs are used for programming. Not very interesting. Okay. So next we get into, just as CPU programmers were forced to explicitly manage CPU memories in the days before virtual memory, for almost a decade, GPU programmers directly and explicitly managed the GPU memory hierarchy. Now, we still do have to manage the GPU memory hierarchy. This really hasn't been changed all too much. Yet, without demand paging, something taken for granted in the CPU space, programmers must still explicitly reason about available memory. The drawbacks of exposing physical memory size to programmers are well known. Other issues like debugging and supporting arithmetic exceptions are likely to emerge as problems for future GPUs as well. To make the leap to becoming a truly general-purpose programming platform, they think that they need exceptions. They need to support precise exceptions on GPUs. Okay, so we have their key claim so far. So they claim that in order to keep up with development and to ease development, we need support for precise exceptions. And then if we remember from the abstract, they say that they can get this with minimal overhead with a large reduction in energy. Very interesting. So then they say, for another performance improvement, that they would benefit from speculation support in the near future. Listen, do you see what these people are doing? You guys like your GPUs, right? These people are trying to make it so that your GPUs could have Spectre vulnerabilities. They want speculation on GPUs. We got to be careful here. We've got to be real careful. That's right, Pistol Fed. We've got to be on guard. We've got to watch out. Nerds. Yeah, we are nerds. But guess what? We're in this together. I want to thank you for joining us today. This was 6 years ago, though. Listen, it doesn't matter if it was 6 years ago. Zyma, so you're reading 3 different chats? Yeah, I'm multiplexing really well right now. I'm reading 3 different chats and I'm going over paper. This was 6 years ago, Acute Berry, but how do you know what NVIDIA has implemented yet? We know that they haven't implemented precise exceptions. The number of people that actually know what's going on means it doesn't matter if it was 6 years ago. That's true. Listen, research doesn't always correlate with products. We'd like it to, but it doesn't always happen. Okay, let's move on. So we want speculation because if we can predict what we are doing ahead of time, that means we can spend less time. We can do a little bit of what's called run ahead, where we can execute instructions very, very quickly and then check later on whether or not they were correct. Washington, are you really in every chat? Yep, I am in every chat. More like it rarely ever happens. That is absolutely true. I am in every chat. I just saw you in Strims and DGG chat. Okay. Key challenges. So I already know the challenge is going to be context switching, because GPUs have way more context to save with all the threads than a normal CPU. For CPUs, the problem of exception support was solved at a relatively early stage. So let's look at 3638 real quick. That's going to be on context switching. So 36. Oh, this was a paper by I think his name's Gurinder Sohi, famous guy from Wisconsin-Madison, winner of the Eckert and Mockley Award. And then 36, Jim Smith, another famous guy, implementing precise interrupts in pipeline processors. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. So for CPUs, the problem of exception support was solved at an early stage. This support was key to enable their success, and the definition of precise exception handling was born. Okay. With support for precise exceptions, all types of exceptions could be handled using a universal mechanism. So this is saying they built a mechanism back in the CPUs back in around 89 So late 80s, early 90s, back when multiprocessors were starting to come into theory. People they have a lot of foresight in this field and research in general. There's a lot of foresight that goes into what GPU architectures will look like in the future. So although Intel processors weren't multi-core for a very long time, the theory was already there. Okay. So a second reason why the widespread adoption of precise exception support on CPUs was that it enabled support for demand paging in virtual memory. This means that we don't need to load in pages of memory, or we don't need to load in everything from memory when we're executing an application. This basically says that we only take things from memory as needed. So if when we access the data, then we'll bring the page in from memory. So we don't spend a lot of time bringing everything right away. So they're saying that they want to borrow techniques from the CPU space to implement context switching on GPUs, but this is difficult because of the GPU state. So like I said, GPU has a lot of state, so it's hard to keep track of it all. Okay. And this is because GPUs require saving and restoring hundreds of registers, hundreds of thousands of registers. That's a lot of registers. So every single thread. So registers are thread private in GPUs. So if we think about what that means, so let's consider just a single warp. So a single warp has 32 threads. Each thread has 256 registers. And it's not uncommon to launch as many as, let's even say something like 100 warps. This is actually a fairly low number. 100 warps for one application, one GPU application. So let me pull up a calculator real quick, and we can punch this in. We can do 32 times 256 times 100. So we have to save 819,200 registers for just this small case. That's a lot of registers. That's a super large amount of registers. Interesting. So that kind of shows us why this is a problem. Okay, and then we have a paper overview. This is fine. We're going to be going over the paper anyway, so we don't need to look at this right now. So let's go ahead and skip. Let's go ahead and skip to the actual, let's look at the contributions. So the key contribution is the development of the iGPU architecture to implement exception and speculation support. They use hardware and software to do this, and then they demonstrate it on sparse and short idempotent regions, and then show how it can be used for demand page virtual memory and circuit level techniques such as voltage speculation and timing speculation. Now this is interesting. I actually have no idea what voltage speculation or timing speculation is. This is something completely new to me. That is interesting. Alright, let's move on. So the GPU background. This will be boring, so we'll skip most of it. This says that this is just some terms. This, they just go over, there's an L1 cache and L2 cache. There's things like translation look-aside buffers, otherwise known as TLBs. Okay, GPU exception support. So this entire paragraph can be summed up by one line. Current GPUs do not implement general exception support. They do a qualifier to this, however, that qualifier doesn't matter. They don't support it. iGPU architecture. Okay, so this is their actual contribution. So let's talk a little bit of this. Idempotence. I've actually never seen this word before. That's interesting. So it's a region of code that's part of the control flow graph. It's idempotent if it can execute once or multiple times with the same effect. Okay, so it's kind of like a function. So we can consider these idempotent regions as functions that do one specific thing. Then they have something called clobber dependencies that they talk about. So this is from the other paper. So there's write after read dependence and read after write dependence. This is something we could ignore for the moment. Okay. We can skip the rest of this. This is context from another paper. So figure 3 shows a simple GPU kernel written in C for CUDA. So where's figure 3? Here we go. This is a kernel. So kernels look a lot like C code. The way you write GPUs is similar to C code, except you have to know some stuff about the GPU architecture. So global basically says that this is a GPU function. This is what's going to execute on the GPU. Block ID, block dimension, and thread ID are used to calculate the row and column of the thread that you're going to be using. So this is not entry-level stuff. Listen. This isn't entry-level stuff. Do I still say entry-level stuff? No, the title of this is a surprise research. Listen, if you want the entry-level stuff, listen, I understand this is an entry-level. This is just bonus content. This is just bonus content. This is the bleeding edge. This is the cutting edge of research right now. This is what GPUs will look like, not what they do look like. What is this paper about? This paper is about supporting precise exceptions on GPUs and supporting things like speculative execution on GPUs. So this is a very interesting paper. This is the cutting edge. This is phenomenal. So East Ranger, if you want more of the, I don't know what your background is in engineering or computer science. So if you want more of the intro content, I'll tell you that if you look at all of the times below that I have in my schedule, Friday is the most introductory course. It's a course on fundamentals of logic design. It's a beginner's computer engineering course. The rest of the courses are middle to upper level computer engineering, computer science courses dealing with things like network engineering and computer architecture, which is my focus, which is why we're reading this paper, and also things like, what else? Oh, compilers. So today is actually going to be on compilers, and that will be in about 2 hours from now. But I figure we do a little paper review until then. But just to go over GPUs a little bit. So this is basically how GPU code is written. It's really C or C++. I feel like I'm literally the only non-com science major that watches Destiny. Listen, I know a bunch of people that aren't computer science. You know Options Select. Options Select is he's an economics guy. Very cool guy. If you see Options Select in chat, please give him a clap for me. Not true. I'm a mathematician. Listen, we love mathematicians in this chat. Mathematics provides all the theory for the stuff that I can't do. And so I can just use the stuff that you guys make. Makes me happy. So like I said, this says this is going to be a GPU function. Watching this at the same time as a Darius movie, hey, as long as you're here, I'm just glad that you're having a wonderful Tuesday. And if you're not having a wonderful Tuesday, I hope it gets better. Okay. So this calculation of row and column, these are used to select the individual thread that will do a calculation. So most of the time on GPUs, we calculate on matrices. So this is going to be the specific element of the matrix that we're going to calculate. Zymos, yikes. That's going to be
Listen. That's okay. Listen. If you're in the privacy of your own home, whatever you do, Zymos, hey, I hope you do it to the best of your ability. So here's just a simple kernel. These are the only specific parts of this that are CUDA related. So you see, if you know anything about C or C++, C++ programming, you could basically write CUDA. You would just need to learn about GPU architecture. In the privacy of my own home, I can love OpenCL. Kamikaze chicken.
You know that's a lie. You know that's a lie. You know deep in your heart, it's impossible to love OpenCL compared to CUDA. OpenCL is awful, and you know it. You know it, and I know it. Nothing's going to change that. Okay, let's get back to what we're doing. Okay, so what do they talk about? So they talk about the kernel, a simple matrix multiplication kernel of A and B, and accumulates the results into matrix C. So they talk about this is going to be they're going to be introducing this sparse boundary, which is going to be, similar to something like a fence, and it's going to be a boundary where after they do something, if there's a precise exception and something fails over here, they can basically use this as a checkpoint and go back. So they do this with a compiler that they make or some compiler modifications that they make. And listen, isn't this great? This ties into what we're going to be learning today. We're going to be doing some compiler stuff today. Isn't that neat? Isn't that grand? All right. So let's see. We assume an SSA, IR, so an intermediate representation. Like NVIDIA's PTX. So PTX, this assembly, this is not what's executed on the GPU. Something called SAS, which is a closed source assembly language, is actually executed on the GPU. So PTX has infinite registers, which means that you can't get any information about dependencies when looking at PTX code because they just use an infinite amount of registers. So IR anti-dependencies occur only among non-local variables or across loop iterations. And so they're using this other paper, so when they say clobber anti-dependencies, this is something defined in a different paper. A paper by this guy. I have no idea how to pronounce his name. Kruigf. Kreef? I'm not even going to try. Okay. So they place sparse boundaries, instructions, at these cuts, and they form sparse, idempotent regions. Then the compiler looks through them linearly. Good try, I won't judge you. Hey, do you know how it's pronounced? I honestly have no idea. I would be curious to know how it's pronounced. I'm assuming the J is silent because I don't know how you would pronounce a J in the F. Judges, why so green? Hey, that's okay. I don't mind being judged. It's the only way to get better sometimes. You got to get a little judging every once in a while. Okay, so they talk about region formation. So this entire section basically says we take this code, we do some transforms to make these regions, and then we insert some instructions that are custom to what we need. That makes sense, I think. Okay. So let's look at the instruction set architecture. So what do they need? How do they need to extend the ISA? So they need this entire section in software So they need to be able to form these regions, and then they also need a way in software to save state. That way, if an exception occurs, they can roll back to a previous checkpoint. I think that makes sense, and that's what we call this idempotent device code. So this is code that has sections that if an exception happens during this code, we can look up the previous state based upon these regions that we make, and we can roll back in time for it. Okay. It's a novel idea. Or no, it's novel for GPUs, but it's something that already exists on CPUs. So that's interesting. We have something that actually isn't novel at all, other than the fact that we have to save much more state. So that's probably why they developed this thing called idempotent regions. They probably developed this because they need smaller subsections to save, otherwise it would just be too hard. So let's see the hardware that they need. To support the ISA extension and the execution model, we had 2 RPC registers per SIMD thread. So what's an RPC register? It's a restart PC. Okay, so this is a program counter that keeps track of the previous region so that we can jump back to it if we need to restart. Okay. So they assume 4-byte RPC values. So 4 times 48, or... So for this case, the RPC would amount to, so it would be 2 times 48, which is 96, and then it would be 96 times 4, which is 386, or something similar to that, or times 4. They need this much. So they need 2 registers per thread. There's 48 threads per SIMD processor. So it's going to be 2 registers times 48 threads times 4 bytes per each RPC. So that's how you calculate that. Pretty simple. Simple calculation. Okay, so let's look at reconvergence. So reconvergence of divergent SIMD threads to saturate the available SIMD width is allowed as well. So this says that normally what happens is when you have a warp of 32 threads all executing, they usually go in lockstep. So if this is PC value 0, 0, they would then go to 0, 4, then 0, 8, and then they would all march in step together. Now, what they're saying here is you can have divergence here. So maybe 2 threads go here, the other threads do nothing, and then 2 threads go here, and the other threads do nothing. So we can have divergent threads within a warp. An interesting idea, but one that was covered in a different paper. So we'll ignore that for now. And so then they say thread reconvergence may only occur after encountering the first boundary. So basically they say that you can only reconverge after you've hit a checkpoint, which I think is it's a fairly simple way to think about something like this. Okay, so let's move on. So alternate CPU-like mechanisms to achieve both exception and speculation support would require much more hardware. So this is saying that, they found a way to use just a couple of registers and this code generation technique in order to be able to roll back as needed. So let's talk about the exception support, or the speculation support. This is interesting, so this should help with performance. Okay, so of course they need to change the compiler and the ISA. This is going to be the main overhead. So general exception support. So they have to expose consistent exception state to an exception handler. So they're going to need an exception handler. So let's talk about this consistent exception state. So to service SIMD exceptions, An exception handler must determine which lanes in a SIMD instruction experience an exception. So that means out of all these threads, we need to figure out which one would cause the exception. Why does this paper address iGPUs specifically? No, it doesn't address iGPUs specifically. They're proposing something called iGPUs in this paper. So iGPU in this case is not integrated GPU. This is their own architecture. That's the name of this paper, iGPU. Yeah, it's just their lingo. So it doesn't stand for integrated GPU like an Intel integrated GPU. No, it's something different. I actually don't know what it is. I completely skipped over that, I guess. It doesn't matter. I'm guessing, oh, I know what it is. It's like interrupt GPU maybe. Okay. Or do they just, is it just an arbitrary name? Oh, it's because of these idempotent regions. So it's idempotent GPU. Okay. Nathan Weeb, listen. That's going to be Saturday. Saturday when we start learning Japanese, then you can post as much of the Nathan Weeb as you want. Okay, let's go back to where we were. Yeah, guys, listen. Did you guys hear? We're going to be learning Japanese and German on Saturdays. Isn't that going to be fun? I'm going to enjoy that. Okay, so let's talk about consistent exception state. To service SIMD exceptions, an exception handler must determine which lanes in a SIMD instruction experience an exception. So that says if we have many threads, that means that we need to figure out which thread caused the exception, because they're all calculating something slightly different. Because every single one of these calculations, these are thread local variables. So every thread has a different value for these variables. So they'll all calculate a different row and a different column. You're German. Hey, that's awesome, man. I want to get a job at ETH Zurich, which isn't in Germany, it's in Switzerland, but it's close. Maybe if I get a job there, we can hang out sometime. Okay, let's get back to this. Is Zurich in the German region? What does the German region mean? Oh, the German region of Switzerland? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know anything about the regions of Switzerland. Oh, apparently it is. Well, isn't that interesting? We learned something new. Listen, the motto of the stream is learn something new. Even if you don't learn anything new about computer architecture today, we learned that Zurich is in the German region of Switzerland. Interesting. Okay. So this says that in order to do this, in order to figure out who failed prior to re-execution, we need some software that trap to an emulation routine. So basically we have this little bit of software that's going to simulate what ran, the way that a debugger inserts a breakpoint, and then upon re-execution, that's where they're going to figure out where the exception happened. So servicing all exception conditions, and then it unpatches the instruction and resumes execution. So it basically finds where the problem happened, and then it patches that problem out. So with this solution, the exception handler would require that an accepting instruction execute all lanes of the instruction to completion, updating all registers except those whose lanes experience an exception. So this says that you go through, you do all these threads, something happens, you generate an exception. You do some replay where you save state back here. Back here you have some saved state. You go through again, kind of like a breakpoint. You figure out who fails, and then if this middle guy fails, you execute the lanes that don't cause an exception. Interesting. French region greater than German region? Listen, I'm not going to make any judgments because I know nothing about Switzerland. I know that the greatest tennis player of all time, Roger Federer, is from Switzerland. I know that Stan the Man Wawrinka, another amazing tennis player, is from Switzerland. And I think we learned the other day that the currency of Switzerland is the Swiss franc. That's about all I know about Switzerland. I also know that if you win a tennis tournament in Switzerland, they give you a cow. Isn't that interesting? Like a literal cow, by the way. Yeah, I know, right? That's awesome. A potential live lock condition is indicated if during if during re-execution an instruction experiences an exception and its PC value does not match the PC of the instruction that initiated the re-execution. Okay, so this says that we hit an exception, we go to re-execute, we hit an exception again, however, it's not the same spot. Okay, so that's what it's doing here. So we have exception 1, block restarted. We have an exception 2 over here, and we restart. So yeah, so that's this live lock. So one way to detect live lock is to save the PC value of an accepting instruction to a dedicated register, and then on re-execution, we compare it. So if an exception reoccurs a second time, that's how we know a live lock. So how do we get past a live lock condition? Yeah, man, Kamikaze Chicken, I'd love a free cow. Wouldn't that be awesome? I don't know why anybody wouldn't want a free cow. Even if you don't like cows, you just sell the cow. Cows are expensive, right? Cows have to be worth like minimum $1,000, right? I would guess. Listen, we have to answer this question right now. How much does a cow cost? In a market, how much is that cow worth? Prices will consistently exceed $2,000 per cow. Listen, somebody just handed you $2,000 and you get to pet a cow? Listen, that's absolutely worth it. Okay, let's move on. GPU single-stepped execution must occur at the granularity of individual SIMD lanes to allow precise serving of individual exceptions. So this says that if we're executing 32 threads at a time, we need to be able to service individual threads, rather than the hardware entering a single stepping mode upon live lock detection. A dynamic compiler instead recompiles the code such that the two accepting instruction causing the live lock condition are placed in separate idempotent regions. Okay, so what they do is they detect. So let's see. So what seems to be happening here is they compile the code. The code gets executed on the GPU. We detect in the SIMD processor. We detect that there's a live lock condition. When we detect there's a live lock condition, we have to talk to the software again, recompile this idempotent regions, bring them in where there's no longer two exceptions in this single warp or this single idempotent region, and we execute again. And then we can handle this now because we can just ignore or we can not execute the instruction that was causing the exception now in each of these separate idempotent regions. Okay. Now this is the interesting challenge to me. How are they going to efficiently context switch? So iGPU architectures can substantially reduce the overheads of context switching on GPUs. This is particularly valuable to the implementation of demand paging. Of course, we want demand paging because we want to be able to ease the stress of the programmer. We want to make it so that it's easier for the programmer to program this. They don't have to manually manage memory. You can have on-demand paging where the pages automatically get loaded. Okay, so they want to use idempotence again. So it makes sense why they call this iGPU, because they say the word idempotence 90,000 times in this paper, apparently. Okay. Our key insight is that they use this. Okay, so they, like I said earlier, that I predicted, they only save and restore between those boundaries, between sparse idempotent regions. So basically, where there's very few registers that actually do anything. That seems to be the key point. Okay. So let's see how they actually perform it. They have two mechanisms. So they have continuous spilling. So with continuous spilling, you just basically shove all your registers to and from the program stack. Okay. So they're just constantly spilling registers. And then they have just-in-time spilling. And that's for when an exception occurs. Does an exception handling routine, save and restore the live state at the continuous sparse idempotent regions and entry point. So the advantage of the save and restore, so what's the advantage of save and restore cost? It's only paid when it is needed versus continuous spilling that happens no matter what. Okay. So it's either you're constantly doing this saving and storing, or you're only doing it during these exceptions. Okay, so this is also the interesting section. How do they support speculation? Okay, so in CPU, speculation recovery support is used for multiple purposes, ranging from, okay, so basically they're saying it's useful to have speculation. So how do they bring it to GPUs? So they basically use a reorder buffer, which basically says we can reorder instructions any way we want in order to execute instructions the fastest. And they use this same idea of idempotent regions, so they can have these small regions that they can easily roll back to if something bad happens. So it has a potentially higher recovery cost, but they use small ones, keeping the penalty low. So they use small regions to recover from. Interesting. As a concrete example, this section focuses specifically on iGPU mechanisms, and they talk about recent proposals for doing speculation. Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about timing speculation. So this actually takes into consideration the time it takes to get through a circuit, so critical path latches. So they augment these, they change the critical path latches with shadow latches. What's a shadow latch? To detect timing errors. Okay. So they're saying that all of this type of stuff is very difficult on GPUs, so they ignore it. So they look at this paper, Gupta et al. For GPUs or for CPUs. And so then they break down all the code into rollback protected and time margin protected regions using a reorder buffer and a store queue to recover from voltage miss speculation only in the rollback protected regions. Okay. So they basically say we have certain regions that we can roll back from. And then voltage speculation, which I don't know voltage speculation, that's something from this Gupta paper apparently. We propose to divide processors into rollback protected and timing margin protected regions and propose a store queue to buffer stores to speculatively produce okay, so they basically say that they have a way to. Can you explain misspeculation? Sure. So let's go over misspeculation for a second. So let me get an empty space. So let's say we have a branch, or let's say we have a loop, right? So we have for something, we do some code, and then we have it ends down here. Okay. Yeah, a tree branch, right? I mean, branches. I guess they're kind of named after trees. So let's take this scenario. So we want to execute this 5 times. So in a CPU, you can do something where you run. So basically what happens is you have this stream of instructions. So we'll call this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These all are in order. What happens is they go into this structure called a reorder buffer. Now, in the reorder buffer, they look at the dependencies between all of these instructions, and when they're in the reorder buffer, it might be something like 2, 1, 3, 5, 4. So they're completely reordered now. And so then these execute, they get buffered, and then eventually they get committed in program order. So when they finish, they get written out as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the order at which so if this one gets executed first, this is the first instruction, it'll be the first one to finish. How and why they were a speculation on voltage, but if it's in a different paper, it's no big deal. Oh, you said voltage misspeculation. Whoops. I thought you said misspeculation. Whoops. Here, why don't we just look it up real quick and see if we can find a quick definition of voltage misspeculation or voltage speculation. It's from this Gupta paper. Speculation in low voltage. Okay. Feedback guide. Okay, I think we can find it in here real quick. Listen, we've got time. This is just a fun stream. This is a relaxing, fun time stream. Okay, so let's see where they actually. Okay, the idea is to gradually lower supply voltage while keeping the processor frequency constant, saving power without impacting performance. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. It's very different from what I thought it would be. This is where all their power savings is coming from, it looks like. Voltage speculation. Okay. Does that make sense, Acute Berry? It looks like they just gradually limit voltage. Oh, that's funny, Acute Berry. Hey, listen. That's the whole point, man. We gotta have some fun here. Okay. So, it looks like this is fairly simple. They use this voltage speculation, and then they do this timing speculation. And it looks like this is where all their power saving is coming from. Okay. So let's see how they evaluate it. They use the simulator that I use. I use a newer version of it that is our house-made version of this. So 2.1, we use 4.0. Okay, we can skip most of this. This basically just says what they used for their setup in their baselines. So region sizes. So what kind of region size do they use in their evaluation? So they show medium, sparse, and impotent region sizes dynamically observed across all benchmarks. So this just basically goes over the region size. So this will just be numbers of instructions. And this is across the GPGPU Sim benchmark suite, it looks like, because it has AES, which is encryption, BFS, which is breadth first search, neural network, Ray, which is a ray tracing, which is a graphics app. And then this is the number of live instructions in sparse region boundaries. And then this is sparse with state, continuous spilling, and short region state preservation. So these are the overheads associated with each method. So it looks like this the sparse region and state preservation seems to be the dominant factor in most of these, except for neural network. Or no, except in NQU, whatever NQU was, I forgot. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they reference the benchmark suite, but they don't remind you what these benchmarks are. Okay. So compiler-induced runtime overheads. So they have additional register spills, reloads, and moves associated with state preservation. Everything that we would expect in this case. We would, of course, expect that if we're saving state, there's going to be some overhead when we have to restore state. Basically, this says if we make a problem, we have to spend some time fixing it. So what's the overhead associated with virtual memory paging? So it's about 2.5%. And so the only overhead is page faults. So if the page isn't in memory and they have to go out and get it, that's the only overhead that they see. So voltage and timing speculation. So it looks like very little. At voltage reduction settings, some 10 and 15%. Okay. And so here they quantify their overheads, and they also quantify their energy reductions. And we see that it's quite a good amount of reduction that they get, and that's at these different levels of reduction. Oh, at different error rates. Okay. Okay, and then they summarize. So it's a practical low overhead way to implement exception support on GPUs. So if we look at the percent overhead, we see that it's very small. We get less than 4% overhead. Now, in reality, who knows? So GPGPU-SIM is based upon, it's a simulator that was built by reverse engineering GPUs. It was based on reverse engineering NVIDIA and AMD GPUs. So looking at patents, looking at the white paper architectures. So who knows how much of that is actually true? Who knows how much we guessed correctly? I mean, it's correlated, but you might have correlation that's close, but you might just be making a lot of errors that happen to cancel out. So it looks like this idempotence-based recovery is not new. Context switch overheads is not new. It's been something that's been classified a lot in the CPU world. Recovery approaches is something that's not new, of course. CPUs have had this for decades now, so this is something that's a solved problem in that space, or it's at least a very mature problem in that space. And then their conclusion is that these two things, exception support and speculative execution, are crucial next steps in the evolution of the GPU. And the reason why this is crucial is because it gives the programmer a lot more freedom. It doesn't constrain them to have to be so incredibly tied to the architecture. Okay? Given recent trends with NVIDIA's Fermi architecture, so this is from a while ago. They're back on Fermi. We're on Volta now. Do people publish papers on stuff reverse engineered from NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, or is that proprietary? So what do you mean, AcuteBerry? Are you talking about are reverse engineering papers published, or are papers that are based upon reverse engineering published? Fermi was GTX 500 series, if I recall correctly. Yeah, this is super old. These are very old. So this is so what was it? Was it Fermi, then Kepler, then Maxwell, then Pascal, then Volta? So either, I suppose. Okay. So a paper on reverse engineering will not be accepted into a conference, and that's because no novel work is done when you're reverse engineering. The people at NVIDIA did all the work at engineering something. So here's a big distinction. Engineering is not the same as research. Just because it takes a while and a lot of effort to do something doesn't make it new. It just means you solved a problem. So say you have to, solve 10 million addition problems. So you can do that, and that's a lot of work. but everybody knows about addition. You just happen to be the one that did it. Now, the second thing is, do papers that are based upon reverse engineered things like NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, do those get into conferences? And the answer to that is yes. In fact, every single paper is based upon reverse engineered stuff. So this simulator, GPU Sim, this simulator was made by reverse engineering AMD and NVIDIA parts. The CPU simulator, Gem 5, was based upon reverse engineering Intel and AMD CPUs. Okay. So AMD, they also look at AMD's Fusion architecture and the fact that they both support unified GPU address space abstraction. So they have virtual address spaces. But they have very dumb virtual address spaces. They basically have one giant linear virtual address space that they just cut up for every process. Do you guys want to know a real fun fact? Here's your real fun fact of the day. So the GPU virtual address space, it doesn't provide any protection. Any process can read memory from any other process up until Volta architecture. Isn't that frightening? In a shared environment, wouldn't that be frightening? My goodness, they are not prepared for the cloud computing age. Isn't that just scary? You can read and write the entire memory space from any process in GPU architecture. Now that's just frightening to me from a security point of view. Okay, so let's see. In addition to the use cases we showed, speculation support can allow GPUs to expand the application domains that they target because they can recover from a variety of hardware reliability problems. Okay, so that means that they're more resilient. So it's a compelling platform for the continued evolution of GPUs. So they basically want to fundamentally change the way that GPUs compute. Great. That's really cool. Well, hey, I thought this was pretty interesting. What do you guys think? This was a fairly interesting paper. I didn't know what to expect when I looked at this. So you guys still doing well? How are you guys doing today? Are you guys having a wonderful Tuesday? I know Acute Berry looks like they're having a lot of fun. Oh wait, we just got another paper. What is this? Oh, okay. Okay. So we won't go over this right now, but the person who said that this paper was very old, listen, I've got a surprise for you, because that paper was old, I agree. However, where is it? Where's the paper? We have a brand new paper. Efficient exception handling support for GPUs. Oh, and who is this from? Is anyone notable on this? This isn't really a big place. Oh, Barcelona. I haven't liked a lot of their work. They've come up with some things, but I think I don't trust their processor. No one has heard. I'm beginning to get hot in Portugal. I'm going to die. Yikes. Listen, Acute Berry, here's something. Here's something that takes some solace in this. I grew up and lived for 21 years of my life in South Texas. You'll be okay. I taught tennis outside for 8 hours a day in high school, at the end of high school, and early college during the summer. On-court temperatures ranged between 115 and 130 degrees. Listen, I can empathize. I understand what you mean. Listen, this is the next paper we're going to go over sometime. This paper is from 2017. This is a brand new paper. This one is hot off the presses. Hot off the presses. I bet this paper... Oh, and look, they even use Pascal. So this is 1 generation old. This is a very relevant paper. Okay. Okay. Nice. Listen. We had a fun time doing that, but guess what? We're looking at dogs now. I need a dog. No, we're not necessarily looking at dogs. We need to look at certain dogs. We're gonna look at what's the dog's name? Earl dog hat. Wait. We're gonna look at Earl. We're gonna look at Earl for a little bit. Listen, this picture, this is my favorite picture of any dog, by far. This is my absolute favorite picture of any dog. Okay. So let's see, what else are we gonna do? What else are we doing? I've got a little bit of time. I need to get food. I need to get food. I'm gonna die. I've only had coffee today. That's not good. That's not good at all. I've had coffee and I've had a protein shake. Neither of those things make a complete meal. That Lebanese place sounded dope. Listen, let me find the it's on my Imgur. I don't know how people pronounce it. I never pronounce it. I have a picture of that Lebanese place. So let's see if I can. So I got this hummus at that Lebanese place. This hummus. So this isn't oil. This is some green chili sauce. You can see the little green chili bits in there. This is some green chili sauce they put on the hummus. Oh my god. This is so good. Then you better teach me everything today. Azure based. We are going to... Listen, this is just a bonus stream. This is a bonus stream. We went over a research paper. Now we're looking at Lebanese food. These are comments. How do I find gallery favorites? All favorites? I don't have any favorites. I'm also not signed in. I need help. I don't want comments. Why did it take me to comments? I assumed that it would have taken me to the user profile. Interesting. Oh, wait, submitted images. I'm dumb. Okay. I got this at that Lebanese place. This is some tomato stew served with a side of this rice. This was so good. This is like green beans, and they put a kefta or kofta in the soup and potatoes, and it also had it had okra in it as well. This was so delicious. This was so good. What else did they have? This is what I usually get though. Oh, it's on the side. So I usually get this. This is and this is actually my lab desk. I'm actually right here right now. This keyboard is what I'm typing on. This mouse and mouse pad, this is what I'm scrolling with. So this is you get chicken shawarma, you get kefta kebab, you get shish tawuk, and then you get another lamb
kebab. Then you get this side of rice and a little bit of veggies. You get a side of this green lentil soup. Listen, the green lentil soup is vegan. It's just lentils. So look, it's partially vegan. And then hey, look over here. We've got the hummus again. This is vegan. So we're partially vegan over here. Now this is absolutely not vegan, but hey. Okay, I've got a question. Low profile keyboard. Listen, Kamikaze Chicken, I have a question for you. Do you want me to get a non-low profile keyboard? Do you want me to get a better keyboard, Kamikaze Chicken? Being vegan in 2018. Listen, I'm not a okay, you do? All right. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right, Arhasius. Arhasius? Listen, you gotta smash that donate button if you want me to get a keyboard for my lab computer. Listen. You're talking to a poor grad student. By poor grad student means that I'm not really that poor, but I'm not going to just spend money on a keyboard. Tesoro has nice ones. Listen, I used to have a DOS keyboard. Right? I had a DOS keyboard when I had a desktop, but I sold my desktop, and my keyboards I didn't move up, so when I moved to start my PhD, I didn't. When I moved to start my PhD, I didn't bring my keyboard with me, because why would I bring a keyboard with me when I only have a laptop? Am I going to be the guy that carries around a keyboard just to have with his laptop? No, we're not doing that. We got to be a little bit smarter than that. Listen, we're big boys now. We're big boys. We're PhD students now. We're not going to carry around keyboards everywhere unless we get the meme keyboard, one of those ergonomic keyboards with the split keys, then we'll carry it around. But listen, we're not spending money on that right now. But yeah, oh, this is so good. I had such a wonderful time eating this. And I didn't even have to eat it sideways, even though the image is sideways. What other pictures do I have on here? Oh, look at these sick kicks that I got. Look at this. Cancel. Look how awesome these shoes are. Listen, if the ground looks terrible, this is winter on a city bus. -5 points? Yeah, I know. Listen, people hate on the sick kicks. These are the USA exclusive Winter Olympics shoes. Covered in black duct tape. They're actually like navy blue and white. The picture doesn't look that great. Are those from Walmart? Not quite. Band engineering today, 1 of 3. Oh no. You guys gonna get me. Oh, look at this, guys. Guys, I got a picnic basket. Look at this. Look how cute this is. Do you guys think this is cute? This is a picnic basket that I got. Listen, if you guys ever come to where I live, if you guys ever visit, we'll go on a picnic. I guarantee it. We'll have a wonderful time. I'll cook everything. We can talk about engineering. We don't need to talk about engineering. We can talk about anything. We can just have fun. That's the Engineering Today promise. Listen, this is an awesome picnic basket. So this is like a little insulated section. It came with the matching picnic blanket and matching napkins as well. You can cook. Yeah, man. I posted a couple of my soups. Let's see. Oh, these were so good. So for my birthday, I got sent ribs from this amazing place in Texas, and so I heated them up. These were the juiciest things I've ever had. These were so amazing. Listen, if I was ever going to try to convince someone not to be vegan, which I'm not in the business of trying to convince someone to be vegan or not, but my goodness, these were the most delicious ribs I've ever had. Now, fresh, they were better,
Like when I went to the actual place before and had them, they were better. But having these flash frozen and sent to me, these were so good. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Oh, so here they are before I cut them up. So I got an entire... Stop. I got an entire rack of ribs, and then I got 3 pounds of brisket. Look at this. Look at this amazing thing. Look at this. Well, it's not just a pig. It's also a cow. Brisket's from a cow. Listen, this is Texas. This is all about... Texas is all about beef. So we get that delicious brisket. I prefer pork ribs, though, so these are pork ribs. It's a big piggy. This is a big piggy, though. Oh, man. It's a big piggy. Yeah, it's from this place called Kreitz's Meat Market. It's spelled Kruez apostrophe S, but it's actually pronounced Kreitz's, and everyone tries to correct me on this. Go to their website. It says pronounced Krites. Don't at me. Oh, I thought this was funny. For some reason, on my Amazon, I had a suggestion for a deep learning book, an introduction to statistical learning, and then for some reason I got a suggestion for a Jordan B. Peterson book. Why? Why is this a thing? Why did this happen? How are these remotely related? Listen. Yeah, ArcStats, isn't this is... It's... Peterson is a scientist? He's not a scientist, though. I'm not saying he's not an academic, but he's a psychologist, right? Oh, it's because you're a white dude between 15 and 30, or 18 and 30. Like, it recommends me books on fantasy and also importance of traditional masculinity. ArcStats, you want to tell us something? You got anything you want to tell us? You need a social scientist? Maybe, sure. I mean, I have nothing against Jordan Peterson. I mean, I don't listen to Jordan Peterson at all because I don't need to. Nothing that he says I'm remotely interested in. People make the meme about like the go clean your room. I don't care. I do clean my room. I clean my room without him asking me to. So when I say scientist, I usually mean... So here's the thing. I hate saying hard science and soft science because people interpret that as soft science bad, hard science good, when they're just different. Hard science, I ascribe to more quantitative things. What he does is not really quantitative. Now, statistically, you can get statistics about what he does, but I think a lot of what he does is more... I don't know. It's hard to quantify that. But he's a psych academic. Wouldn't that be a scientist? Yeah, I mean, you could make the argument that he's a scientist. I consider psych academic to be more in the medical field. So, Brad Nader, I don't consider people that are doctors to be scientists. That's not a knock on doctors, but they're not scientists. They're doctors. So I know he's a clinical psychologist, right? I don't think you publish much. So yeah, so I don't consider doctors to be scientists. And that mainly stems from what doctors do day to day, right? And what doctors learn. So I don't actually know too much about him and his pedigree. I don't know anything about Jordan Peterson. I don't care anything about Jordan Peterson. There's a billion academics out there. Why would I care about somebody not in my field? Why would I care about somebody not in my field that what they do has no impact on me? It's not a knock on him. It's a who cares? You can't
You can't have your finger on the pulse of everything. MD, PhD, though, I mean, sure. I mean, anyone that gets a PhD, I mean, it's... Getting a PhD is not necessarily something that's the hardest thing in the world to do. It's definitely time intensive. Oh, look at this. There's a Mexican restaurant. I found this on their website. This looks so disgusting. This neon green guacamole. There's this tomato looking enchilada sauce and this yellow cheese. Oh, this looks so gross. My goodness. This looks so bad. Okay, so now we're getting into some of the stuff that I cooked. So I made this. This is a tomato basil cream soup with Italian sausage. This was so delicious. If you guys aren't a huge fan of tomato soup, but you like cream-based soups, this is so amazing. And then I took some baguettes and I made little crostinis with just cooking them with some olive oil. This was so good. I also made this. This was my proudest soup. So this is a loaded baked potato soup, garnished with a little bit of some of the leftover bacon bits and some sharp cheddar and some sour cream and some green onions and some just fresh cracked pepper on top. Listen, if you guys cook at all, or even if you don't cook, just get a pepper grinder. Why aren't you getting a pepper grinder right now? Why would you buy the pre-cracked pepper? Listen, it's $0 more expensive in the long run, and it's just so much better. Who wants that stale pepper? Listen, and not to mention you could pretend you're more of a chef. I've got a salt grinder. Listen. I have Himalayan sea salt right here, and I've got the peppercorns right here. I've got both. You know how cheap this was? This was so incredibly cheap. Why not get both? Why not? Okay. Oh, I also made this. So this is some jambalaya with some homemade sourdough. Listen, guys, we got some homemade sourdough right here. We got some homemade sourdough. I stubbed my toe a little bit on the heat on this one, which is why I garnished it with some sour cream. This says chicken and spicy. Wait, so what is a scientist to you? I usually consider scientists something that some people that deal with more quantitative data. So a psychologist doesn't deal as much with quantitative data. So just the type of data? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you can make so political scientist, would you consider them a scientist? I mean, it's all arbitrary, right, Brad Nader? Here's the thing. It's not like I don't have some like big system in place of who I determine is a scientist or not. It's just what I personally ascribe to the term scientist, not making like a judgment call of whether something is more important or less important. Isn't the distinction whether or not you can do rigorous experiments? So the things that I usually consider science, actually, this is probably the best definition I can give of my metric. It's usually things that can be proved outright. So think about computers, right? We know deterministically everything about how computers work down to the transistor level. So I consider that a science. And so by extension, physics is a science because physics is what building computers is made off of. And biology, chemistry, you can make the same kinds of arguments. So you can't do that with psychology.
You can't deterministically know anything. Or you can have very good ideas and you can have very good models. So social science wouldn't be a science under that distinction, correct? Yep. I mean, like, it's called political science and there's social sciences and stuff. I mean, they're all arbitrary names to me. I'm just saying when I typically think of a science, what I think of. So do you not consider the more probabilistic aspects of quantum mechanics as science? I don't know. That's an interesting question. I mean, I don't have like this solid system. I mean, considering that quantum mechanics seems to be an extension of physics, correct? I would consider it a science based upon that. So it's not saying that things can't have probabilistic things. It's saying that it has to have some deterministic things. I don't think psychology has anything that's really deterministic, correct? Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just saying we could have been leet. Oh man. Now we can now all we get is I don't know about psych, so I don't know. Yeah. I don't know either. I'm not, like I said, listen, but this jambalaya, this is a tried and true recipe. This is like some chicken and I got some, so I went to a farmer's market and I got some Cajun sausage. Oh man, if you guys haven't gone to a farmer's market, what are you doing with your life? You're just wasting time. Farmers markets are the markets of the heavens. The best produce, the best meat, the best baked goods. Listen, I went to this farmers market. I live in the Midwest. So I live pretty close to where there's a bunch of Amish people and Mennonites. So I went to this farmers market. The Mennonites and the Amish were out in force with baked goods. The most delicious looking pies and pastries that I have ever seen. My goodness. Listen, someday we'll live stream going to the farmer's market. We'll do that sometime. I'll at least take pictures sometime. My goodness, though. Oh, I also made this. I made this. This is a Luther. So this right here, people kept calling this an upside down bagel. This isn't an upside down bagel. This is a Krispy Kreme donut. This is a Krispy Kreme donut right here. Not an upside down bagel. The reason why I flipped it upside down was so that I didn't make a mess of my hands with the glazed part of it. And then this is some, I got a couple of ears of corn at a farmer's market, and so I cut them off. I sauteed it up with some green onions, some pepper, and some onions. And this was so amazing too. Lane, yeah, I know, man. This is so good. Holy Amerifat. Listen. Maphraxis. Yeah, Maphraxis. I'm going to call you Maphraxis. Listen, Maphraxis. This entire meal is... This was only mentioned in an episode of The Boondocks. Okay, that was right. This was mentioned in an episode of The Boondocks. That Adult Swim cartoon, right? That's where this came from. I think Binging with Babish did this once, and so I decided to do this because there's a when I used to live in San Antonio, Texas, there was a food truck that I would go to called like Crazy Carl's, and they had a Luther burger, and that's the first time I heard about the Luther burger. And here's the thing: you would think that this would be disgustingly sweet, but here's the thing. You have cheese that's salty, you have bacon that's salty, you have meat that's salty. It's so many of savory salty flavor to go along with this intense sweet flavor that they balance out. Why put the donut like that though? Okay, so here's the thing. If you cut the donut in half and you put it like this on both sides, you don't have to get your hands covered in the glaze that's on the outside of the glazed donuts. That makes sense? I feel like I could only eat half of this. Maybe, man. Listen. There's only one way to find out. You just have to try. Okay, what is this? People say this stuff is American, but the Portuguese have this abomination. Ooh, what is this? What do we have here? So what is this? This is a steak with an omelet on top with a fried egg on top or something? With like gravy? Is that what I'm looking at here? What am I? Oh, it's a ham and steak sandwich covered in cheese and smothered in gravy and egg and fries. Okay, so it's like a mixture of poutine, a steak, ham and eggs, steak and eggs. Interesting. Listen, I'd probably eat it. Listen, as of right now, listen, I told you guys, I only had coffee today. I've only had coffee and a protein shake. I'm dying. I've been up since 4 a.m. I shouldn't do this to myself. Especially working out as much as I do. I can't, this isn't supportable. Okay. Do I have any other pictures I'm going to show off? Okay, so this is very important. So recently I became a plant dad. So this is Amelia. This is Robert. And this is Edgar. So we have Amelia, Robert, and Edgar. These are my new plants. And you can see my, you can see my, what are they called? My Timberland boots in the background. Yeah, but yeah, look, I'm a plant dad. Oh, these are the green onions that I got and the spinach that I got at the farmer's market. That stuff was so good. Do I have a picture of that stuff? I don't think I do. Do I have anything else in here? I found Steven's doppelganger at my university. Not sure if serious. I'm absolutely serious, Kamikaze Chicken. I got those plants with my fiance and we decided to name them. Oh look, it's my grades from last semester. Look at that. Isn't that cool? I got an A plus, and a satisfactory for my PhD thesis. Isn't that nice? I'm a good boy. I did a good job. Somebody suggested that I go here, this ramen place in Chicago, and I can confirm you should probably go. Wait, so S is below A? This is a different than other tier structures? Listen, Mafraxis, when you do research is pass-fail. So my PhD thesis stuff is pass-fail. It's either satisfactory or unsatisfactory. But we're going to pretend that it's S rank, okay? Don't tell anyone. Tell everyone that it means S rank. Oh, here's where I was complaining about they lost my package. Oh yeah, it said it was out for delivery at 3:49 a.m., but it was actually lost. Oh, this is just from a research paper. This was pretty interesting. It was a way to improve and basically cut through a lot of the TCP/IP stack. What is this? Oh, look at this. Do you guys have to pay for clean coal? I got this on my energy bill.
I got this on my energy bill. Do you guys have to pay for clean coal? Because apparently I do. Clean coal adjustment. Pff, that's rich. Yeah, I know, right? Trump. Network traversal of some sort. Yeah, kind of. So this is the network stack. And so basically what they did was they were comparing, they were finding ways to optimize it, basically getting rid of a lot of the intermediate layers. So that's what whatever this SDF was, I don't remember. Is this like the Republicans' version of clean energy tax? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We gotta keep the coal clean. Wonder what they do? They take the coal out, they give it a nice wash. That's what clean coal is. This is how that makes me feel. I feel like this whenever I look at my... Whenever I look at that clean energy task, this is the exact expression that is on my face. Okay. Oh, it's my debit card that broke. That was fun. Yeah, right. They're just charging you extra to pay for jobs that shouldn't exist. Yeah, exactly. That's why I said they take all the coal out, they give it a nice wash, they polish it, they put it right back in, and then they burn it. Oh, look at this. Look at this. This was a legitimate email that I got, and I could still get these emails because I couldn't mark them as spam or unsubscribe just because of how funny it was. I got an email that said, "Oy vey, did you have a problem placing your order?" It's a place called Chala Connection. Isn't that great? That's one of the funniest things ever. This is pretty interesting. So, are you even Jewish? I'm not Jewish. It's an online bakery. I was going to order some challah bread for someone as a gift. This was interesting. Amazon's largest acquisitions to date. Apparently Whole Foods was like 13.7 billion. And look at all these other places. Like people talked about Amazon acquiring Twitch. That was a drop in the bucket for them. That cost them literally $0. It was literally free to get Twitch. But no, I'm not Jewish. I'm not anything. Oh, there's the... This is the chat logs of that one guy. Yikes. Listen, that one guy from chat earlier, he had some hot takes. He had some real hot takes. Not the kind of takes that I would generally do. Listen, guys, we made it. We made it. We can now apply to be a Twitch affiliate. You know, I'm going to do that right now. Let's become a Twitch affiliate right now. Let's apply to become Twitch affiliate. Let's go. I'm going to go on the other stream. Let's see. A check mark shows that... Wait, what? It's not showing it as completed yet. It says stream for 7 unique days. Do I have to close the stream? Do you have to close the stream in order to apply now? That's lame. That's not how that should work. Okay, here's a question. What bitrate should I be streaming on? Because I'm streaming on 6K right now. Is that fine? I don't know what's required. I don't know what the max I can stream on. I don't know what the min is. All I know is that, listen, thank you guys for joining me. I'll be back in about 45 minutes or so, 50 minutes or so we can start learning about compilers today. We learned a little bit about consistency today and about supporting speculation on GPUs. We found another paper. You probably don't need 6K for this, but you have a ton of bandwidth. Yeah, I have 800 up, 800 down, so I can do whatever I want. I could stream any resolution and any frame rate I wanted to, technically, probably. I don't. Yeah, I could stream anything. That's what you get for streaming in a lab, man. You get these benefits. Okay. Okay. Well, this was fun. All right, guys and gals, if there's any gals here, I'll be back about 45 minutes or so. When I come back, we're going to learn about the wonderful world of compilers. I'll try to tie it into computer architecture a bit, which is what I do. Until then, I want you guys to stay safe out there. But most of all, I want you guys to go out there and learn something new. If you have any questions or anything, please send them to me any time of day. Subscribe to that YouTube. Follow this Twitch account. You know, every little bit helps. You know, for me, it's not about the money. I just want to get that name out there. That way, we can get more people in here, more interaction. That'll be fun. Also, if we do end up making any money on this, the first thing I'm going to get the NPR microphone. That way we can have NPR streams. I'm also going to see if we can get an NPR soundboard. I think that would be a lot of fun. All right. I'll see you guys in a bit. I'm Terry Gross. Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm going to be Renee Montaigne. Okay. I'll see you guys in a bit. Ciao.